Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. We have going to have a relatively um, brief space tonight. We wanted to touch on a couple of things. Uh, we wanted to address the issue: is the left declaring war on facts? Facts seem like they're under attack, but that's just my perception. And again, does America love pseudoscience? So that's continued. I should have put part two in the title. Matter of fact, I'm about to do that right now. Say P2. All right, there it is. So, did the left declare war on facts? I mean, facts seem like they're hard to come by. You know, you have a lot of facts being manufactured, a whole lot of options that were never available before. Um, what is that about? Why 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 are facts seemingly under attack by the academic left? Um, One thing I want to point out, according to Professor Chris Hedges, is the left. And he wrote in his book, "The Death of the Liberal Class," is at one point in time liberals were the good guys. Now, I didn't say Democrats, I said liberals. Sometimes that can coincide, but there was a point in time where the liberal class served as a bypass valve. So if you think about the days of John F. Kennedy, the liberal class of people served to kind of fight away extreme the extreme right. So the liberal class kept America from plunging into a nuclear war. But Chris Hedges says somewhere around that time during the civil rights movement, um, the liberal class was bought out and corrupted. So that's what we're looking at today. We're looking at professors providing all these options for life that have never been available before. So without further ado, um, did the left declare war on facts? Is that just my perception, or y'all seeing it too?
Yes.
Talk about it.
Well, some of the things that I don't like that the left is promoting is just the idea that anybody can just be black because they literally were in the comments saying, well, she identifies that way. Well, Rachel Dolezal was more dedicated to it than her. She had black kids and a black man, so why didn't she get a pass if all you have to do is identify as being black? Okay. So if I have to choose, I choose the white woman who I think is undercover black woman. But if she wants to take that little 2% African genetics and say she's black, her family said, oh, no, you're not. Because if you're black, that means we're black. So you better tell everybody you're not black. That's what I think happened. I think she probably has like 2% black DNA, and her family said, you stop going around saying you're black because that means we're black. You can't be black and then come from a white family. We didn't adopt you. So, yeah, something's going on with her, but that's not the point. The point is, I don't know why I went on a tangent. The point is, they make up whatever they want. They think they're going to reshape reality. They think they're going to just sit up there and bully you and say chest feeding. I literally heard a woman say she wasn't allowed to say mom while she was um, giving birth to her child. The nurses were not allowed to say the word mom. I forget what they said instead, but the chest feeding, you're not allowed to be a woman, you have to be a cis woman because
I was
we're a
just about to
trans
say that.
woman.
A cis man. That's a war on facts. I'm a man.
Right.
I'm not cis man.
We don't have a prefix for men and women, and there's only men and women. Okay. Even a hermaphrodite, an intersex person, still not a new gender. It's men and women. It's just on the same body because it's a birth defect. There's no other things. It's just men and women. Okay. And they
That's a.
can't do anything about it.
I got a question, Wani. I never even thought about that. So a hermaphrodite, what's the pronoun?
Yikes.
You stupid. Oh shit! I didn't expect you to say that one. I gotta look that up. Anybody know the pronoun for hermaphrodite? And I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm really curious. I never thought about that before.
I was interviewing some of them because I had some research I was doing trying to prove that a person could impregnate themselves.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Oh no, we're all sterile. We can't reproduce." And I said, okay. So I notated that. And now they're running around claiming that they can reproduce. I said, okay, if you can reproduce, then they said, well, some of the genetics on the male side or the female side goes dormant. So one of them gets more what do you call it? Pronounced or whatever. One of them is more dominant, that's the word, and the other one is not. So it just depends on how that goes. Uh, but they can't get their story straight, and I can't get the story straight. I don't think there's a lot of research done on them Uh, but I was trying to see. I read some very interesting stories about people becoming pregnant and there was no other person around.
Wow.
And so I was trying to find out if a hermaphrodite, or what they call an intersex person, could in some way impregnate themselves.
That's very interesting. There's a guy named Credo Mutwa. He was I forget the title, but he's from South Africa and he's from a long old lineage of um I don't want to be pejorative, but kind of like a I hate saying witch doctor because that's like a pejorative, but he was a natural healer. Let's do that.
Common.
Shaman, that's the word I was struggling for. But he's from a very old lineage of shaman um, in Africa that passed down the oral tradition in the right way, man. He knew all kinds of shit. Credo was found by David Icke, and David Icke kind of interviewed him. You can find his interviews on YouTube. They're 6 and 7 hours long, and I promise if you start them, you won't stop. But Credo had tens of thousands of years worth of oral history that was passed down to him in his grueling process to become a shaman. They had another word for it, but he was a shaman. And Kratos said that the early man and woman, the original man and woman, check this shit out, evolved from plants. He said the original human being was more of a plant than an animal. And he said in the beginning, the original human being was both male and female. And Kratos said, going back to those doggone what do you call it? The Epic of Gilgamesh and those stories of the Anunnaki. Kratos said that some beings came from outer space and they were responsible for separating us. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I just thought it was a real interesting take on possibility.
Well, we could be plant like, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I never heard that theory before, and I don't know if I buy it, but that's what he didn't say we were plants, but he said we were more related to plants. Um,
We could be, because people say we're very related to reptiles and we have tails and we look like reptiles. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess we could be.
and Credo also said it's a group. It's a group of malintent beings on a planet called the Chetawuli, which are reptilian, and they have malintent for human being. He said a whole bunch of interesting shit that like you never heard before. Some of that stuff aligns with some of Zachariah Extension stuff. Some of it kind of aligns. It's not the same words, not the same terms.
He's
But
from where? You said South Africa?
yeah, Credo was from Zimbabwe. He
Oh,
actually he was from what's the name of it? It doesn't exist anymore. Uh, that territory. What did Zimbabwe used to be? Uh,
Zaire?
Not Zaire. The other one. Rhodesia.
Rhodesia? Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, he has very interesting, and I don't think he's lying. I mean, he has like this oral history. He's from one of the oldest places on the planet near it's called I think it's Adam's Calendar. There's a Stonehenge in South Africa called Adam's Calendar that nobody talks about. And yeah, he talked about all that history and well, the interesting thing about Credo before I derail the topic, I just had to say this. Credo said that during there was a period of enlightenment, which kind of aligns with the whole Atlantis thing, right? And he said the Credo literally said the Illuminati um, went on a rampage across the world, killing shamans and absorbing all of their information. Once they told them everything they needed to know, they would kill them. And I looked at the time periods on when Credo was talking about that, and I was like, wow, that lines up with the Crusades. Anyway, back to the war on facts. What else are they declaring? What other facts are they declaring war on?
Well, they have the narrative that people who voted for Trump are um, immoral because you have voted for a rapist. And I'm just saying to myself, what? That may be true. Yeah. I mean, 20 years ago, someone with that background would not get to run for president. But how are you going to talk about morals when the person has been running around having sex with anybody to get to the next level? Somebody who's willing to take a position without winning a primary, someone who's willing to become the first woman president and by trying to make Biden step down. How is that person moral at all? How is your party moral when they railroad children into puberty blockers? How are you moral when you're telling me I'm not a woman all of a sudden? I'm a cis woman and I need to scooch over and share my gold medals with a man. How are you moral when you've got, genitals hanging out in front of children at pride parades and in dressing rooms and in bathrooms? How are you moral when you just gave money for uh, trans people to go in classrooms and talk to children about being trans? How are you moral? I mean, I could go on and on and on about the immorality, and that's why I can't see anybody voting for them because you're just voting for your own demise.
Right, right, right. And basically, Professor Chris Hedges says they were compromised. The liberal class were compromised in the 60s, and basically made a deal with the devil to become agents of the corporate state. So anything that pushes corporate ideals, they back 100%. Jordan Peterson has his license suspended to practice psychology because he spoke out against the whole puberty blocker issue. I forget the young lady's name, but there's a it was a young lady who got a according to Jordan Peterson. I'm not, a medical professional at all, but I'm not licensed to make an opinion. I'm regurgitating what Jordan Peterson said. But there was a young lady, I think she was like 13 or something, and according to Jordan Peterson's diagnosis, she was going through something that was very normal amongst, in his view, in his professional view, amongst adolescents, particularly adolescent girls of not, I forget the term. I want to say it's body dysmorphia, but it was something where you're not comfortable with your body, which I'm sure all of us can relate to. That's called being a 12, 13-year old. Nobody cared. That's a weird time. That was a weird time for me. Like your hormones are changing and it was just awkward and embarrassing. That's how I felt when I was 12 and 13. But he said this young lady was going through that, which is outrageously normal. And the hospital basically gaslit her to say that, oh, you must be in the wrong body. And they had a drastic situation where they prescribed her those puberty blockers and gave her a reassignment surgery, basically against her will. They convinced her parents to give her gender reassignment surgery. And Jordan spoke out against that as a licensed professional, and they suspended his license. He's under review. Like they're trying to take his license. And Jordan said something very fascinating about that. I'm paraphrasing him, of course, but Jordan said that that's the corporate hand because Jordan said that there's a huge money making apparatus in puberty blockers. Isn't that interesting?
That's all they care about is selling drugs.
But that's just wild if you think about it. Puberty blockers. And again, I'm not a medical professional at all. I'm not licensed to, I'm regurgitating what I was told. Jordan was like, he was saying that those things are outrageously dangerous and, you know, like it's so much risk with those things and they're expensive, but there's a huge apparatus has been built to manufacture them. So now you need clientele. So in Jordan's view, medical professionals are being urged, in his view, to really push gender reassignment surgery, not because it's, in his view, something people are requesting, but to support the financial apparatus that's been built around it. Oh man, that just drives me nuts hearing that. And I think they're going to take his license.
Wow.
Yeah, yep. More war on facts. You said race. Yeah, letting people cosplay as different racial groups. I think I heard a certain somebody say that black people were immigrants, right? Am I hallucinating or did I?
No, Yvette said something about um, immigrants that are Black Americans. There's no such thing. I don't know why she's saying that. I mean, her whole shtick is that we're our own particular group. So why write that on some flyer? I don't understand.
Well, yeah, again, that's conflation, and that's not like Wani said. That with all due respect, no harm intended, but we got to stand for what's right. That's not factual. Foundational Black American is a foundational Black American. We are, to quote Dr. Claude Anderson, we are non-immigrants. In fact, we are arguably the only non-immigrants in America. That's a big argument, because some people argue that the original colonists, the white colonists, the English colonists, were English immigrants. We are a culmination of different groups that were amalgamated on this land. We're a new group. Our sister Wani, if y'all get a chance, go on her page. I stumbled on your page earlier, Wani, and you had this beautiful uh, what do you call those things? We call them dashboards in the collegiate world, where you had like a foundational Black American woman, very attractive lady, and you had like a dashboard that broke down her lineage, and it was all over the place. And it,
Yeah, these are just random lineages. People that post it up there and talk about their background.
yeah, well, I'm saying that to say that her lineage is basically American because it's so many different things. I think it was 20, damn near a third percent European. Yeah, that's substantial. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it-
And see, this is the difference. Like you can see she has a little bit of the Scandinavian. This is something that you're not going to see in the Caribbean because they didn't have Viking settlements. So when we have different Scandinavian countries, or she's got, it says broadly Northwestern European, which is Scandinavian kind of. And then she has just Scandinavian. These are things that are unique to us, these combos. Uh, and just like with Afro Latino, you're going to see a different type of indigenous listing.
so
You're going to
go
see
ahead.
something different, and they have a different indigenous admixture than we do. And they have different, like if you look at a person from Brazil, they're going to have more Portuguese. We probably don't have any Portuguese, and if we do, it's going to be from the 1500s. So it's going to be back there and maybe not even show up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I lost the page, but I had a page. I'm gonna have to paraphrase it because it take forever for me to find it again. But Sheldon Wolin, Professor Sheldon Wolin, basically argued that the liberal, the left, like Chris Hedges, Professor Chris Hedges later said, the left in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, the left sold out to become agents of the corporate state. So we have to look at what's behind this war on facts with respect to racial conflation. And I can only wonder, is there some other type of insidious, possibly insidious plan behind conflating other groups with foundational Black Americans. And the only conclusion I can draw is Maybe they know that reparations is on the way, is en route, and they want to try to spread the reparations to other groups. This is the way this thing operates. You know, it's always some type of intention behind it. It's never in innocent, clumsy action. You know, in brief, what I'm saying is a war on facts has a purpose. It's not clumsy. It's a business purpose behind it. What other facts are being um oh, I got a good one. How about Native Americans were um what's the word? What's the word for the Asian Wani? The
Siberia.
Siberian. That's a lie. Native Americans are very negroid.
Yeah, the number one issue is that it's political. So the scientists know that the black Indian, so to speak, was here, but they'll put out the report. They'll show that that DNA still exists. They'll show people in South America that have that DNA. You'll see the facial structure does not look typical to Siberian originated person, but they'll put all that information out, and then another part of, I guess, the political arm of science will say, oh, well, that doesn't prove anything. And there's a lot of things. They share canoe building, they share different foods that are not um, known to be exchanged. So there's a lot of things that were exchanged between those two people to show that these Negritos and these Austro, I guess people that you could say look like Australians or um, whatever we're going to call them today, Austronesian, Proto-Austronesian,
Melanesian.
Melanesian, people with that background, because they're the ones who are using all the terms. Like on our DNA profile, it'll say Austronesian, then they'll say Austro-Melanesian, then they'll say, oh, Austronesian, but those Negritos are Proto-Austronesians. So Austronesians are what they turned into, the new admixture for them. Just like the first Japanese people were the Jaman people. And then some people came from the Korean peninsula and blended in with the Japanese people. And they had better rice growing techniques, and they knew how to make bronze weapons. They had better weaponry. And so they became the dominant group.
Hmm.
But they're a lighter group of people. The other group is another Negrito because they found the skull in a cave.
So there.
So they're the darker Negrito types that have been admixed. Now, when they start admixing it, the new person is called an Austronesian.
Interesting. So I want to know, Wani, we know they're declaring a war on those facts because I've found my scholarly documents to prove, although I'm not ready to give them up yet. I found a couple scholarly documents that prove that the words you just said, Protonesian, Melanesian, like that's just factual. They were like the original groups, and like you said, the Twa and the Khoisan we're here. This is facts. This is science. So, what group is declaring war on those facts? I know one group, the canon of art, the Archaeological Association, is like kind of leading the charge on trying to cover up the truth. So the question is, why are they doing this? Are they doing this to support the pseudo science, the pseudo narrative that Europeans existed or um, before they actually did?
Yes.
Interesting.
Um, they basically have these narratives, and it takes hell and high water to get them to back off of it, just like they had a narrative that there's only a Neanderthal and blah blah blah, and then someone said, "Nope, here's another hominid." And they were like, "No, no, we came from the, Homo erectus and the Neanderthal, and you can't add new hominids in on it." And they said, "No, Denisovan, sorry, there's a new one." Then this woman said, "Hey, I found a whole bunch of hobbits. These guys are like 3 feet tall and they're
I
human.
heard
They're
that.
they're like tiny humans." And they almost tried to declare that woman insane and throw her in the garbage. And she was like, "I can't help it if I discovered this group of people." So I guess to dumb it down, um, they basically, when you discover something, they say it's not real unless you can prove that it's a family of them. And because they'll just say, "Oh, that's a mutation." Like if you find one of something, they'll say, "Oh, that's a mutation, so it doesn't count." But if you find repeated, like a whole cave full of these individuals, then they can't deny you. So that's what she found. She found a whole cave of tiny humanoids, or sorry, tiny hominids. They are humanoids, but they found yet another hominid running around. So we have a lot of different hominids. They're saying they're not human yet. I don't know what that means.
Me neither.
They say the Neanderthal is an animal. It is not human. I don't know why they're saying that. The brain is larger. Like we said yesterday, it's not a white person like they portrayed. That white skin did not exist, straight hair did not exist, blonde hair did not exist, blue eyes did not exist. So this individual was a nappy headed brown individual running around with heavy brows and mixing with a whole lot of Homo sapiens and with Denisovans. So now these tiny people, they didn't seem to be mixing with anyone, and they're kind of over there and, on their own island. So they didn't seem to blend that much. But when someone comes up with something else, they basically hide it. So if you come up with some long, 11-foot tall bones, they just take the bones and tuck them away in a drawer because they don't feel like dealing with it. But they couldn't do anything with this woman because she found a whole cave and she brought a lot of attention. Another issue, and now this one is confusing because this one is the men lived during the time of the dinosaurs argument. And they have repeatedly found human footprints next to dinosaur footprints on the same level. So they don't like that. Somehow that makes people that like the Bible feel vindicated. I'm not sure why, but it does. And there's a lot of artwork around in the like the artifacts showing people drawing dinosaurs. A stegosaurus is definitely on that Angkor Wat, and
Wow.
some imbecile tried to say it was a pangolin. No, 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 no. The legs are very chunky like an elephant, and that's the style of a stegosaurus. Then when that didn't work, when they tried to say it was a pangolin, "Oh, look, they have pangolins over there, they're running around." When that didn't work, they just said, "Oh, they're just fantasy animals. That's, they just made up mythical animals." Nope, they had other realistic animals. So they just lie. They gaslight, they lie, and they want to keep you in the dark. But guess what?
What's up?
Have a strong brain. When you saw something, you saw it, and you don't need white people or white scientists to create reality for you. If you saw something and you believe that it is a fact, and you've used logic, you've put all of the pieces together, you can believe um, your own facts. You don't need for them to tell you what something is if you've seen it. If you've seen something, You saw a little green man running around in your neighborhood. You don't need for the Pentagon to tell you that little green men are real. So that's one thing that they do, because some of these naturalists will go out and hang out with pygmies or Batwa, and they'll see one of these creatures that people don't want to admit exists. So they do this to white people, and they just call them crazy. Oh, you didn't see that, or you're hanging around with those pygmies. They're superstitious. Pygmies are the ones that mentioned that there was uh, a gorilla. So they said that didn't exist. Gorillas don't get, apes don't get that big. They refuse to believe it. Gorilla has is a new thing that white people have admitted exists. The panda. The Chinese people were writing about this panda. And they white people are like, nope, there's no such thing as a bear that's black and white that sits up in the tree doing that. They wrote
Yeah,
about it a long time ago.
yeah. I when I go do field research outside the country, I make sure I take two cameras just in case I take to do my research. But I love what you said, Wani, that don't put so much credence into Western academic canon, because Western academic canon's purpose is to spin a narrative. See, where we get confused in school is we think Western academia's purpose is the pursuit of truth. It is not. It's the sustaining of a narrative, which is a hard thing to wrap your mind around when you're a little geeky foundational Black American kid, what I'm saying, that like school like I did. um you have a need to want to believe. Why would these people lie to me? you know it's a hard concept for a child to understand, but they're lying to try to support, well, from what I believe, trying to either A, support their narrative, and or B, try to keep us away from a counter narrative that may be the truth. We talked about that counter narrative the other day with the whole Pangea issue. Um, could mankind have been more advanced, light years more advanced in the beginning? Um, George Lucas wrote his saga Star Wars based off of a book he read when he was studying philosophy called The Power of Myth. And The Power of Myth talked about Atlantis and hyper advanced technology. And the best place to hide something is in plain sight. Do y'all remember Star Wars when it first came on? What does it say? In a place long ago,
In
far,
a galaxy long, long away.
I said long ago, and that used to confuse me as a child. Long ago, what do you mean? Like, they got spaceships and shit. What do you mean long ago? That's the future, right? Wrong. Are they trying to keep us away from a narrative, from the possibility that we were more advanced in the past than we are now? I don't know. But they trying to keep us away from something.
There's plenty of evidence that things are not, just us springing up and coming from primates and going through all this cave activity, living in caves, making stone tools and then making metal tools and making swords. That's not how things went. We can see that their narrative has fallen completely apart with places like Gobekli Tepe. That completely tore their world apart. And I mean, I remember when they first discovered it, some of these scientists were like, that place is a fraud. They were really screaming that it was that it wasn't a real place, that it was a fraud, because it like these people write books based on the timeline that they know of right now. And they like to put periods on the end of sentences that can't have a period on the end of it. We don't know. This earth is billions of years old. We don't know what was on here, who did what. All we know is what has happened in our frame of reference. And that's all we can know right now.
Yeah, I was looking at a scholarly source from a handful of Russian anthropologists. I read it in yesterday's Space Wanting, but they showed the Denisovans, I think, um, in during the Paleolithic period, they found a damn bracelet that was worn by a Denisovan, and it had drill marks on it. And the one of the um, engineers looked at it and said that was formed by some type of mechanized drill. Wait a minute, the Neanderthals and the Denisovans weren't supposed to have drills. What do you mean they had a drill? So guess who's trying to suppress that? The archaeologist. The archaeology departments across the West have a vested interest to try to keep the truth from escaping out and to try to explain away things that are not explainable, like the blocks in the Pyramid of Giza. How did you get them up so high? How in the hell did you move those gigantic blocks 500 miles? How'd you do that? It's over 2 million of them. How did you stack them up that high? You can't do that today. Just explaining. Not to mention the perfect drill holes in the Great Pyramids of Giza. How does that done? Did they have a drill? Nobody had a power drill. Just explaining away. So my question is, what use do we have for departments of archaeology? Do they serve a function for the people, or are they just a cover-up machine? I digress.
Well, they like to still keep that narrative out. So for the rest of my life, even though I know that Neanderthals and Denisovans and none of these people are white, if you Google Denisovan, you're going to see a white person.
Yeah.
If you Google, caveman or Neanderthal, they're not going to give up the BS. And they'll say, yep, the mutation for straight hair wasn't there. So they can't be a straight haired individual. They'll admit these things, but they'll still keep pushing out these images over and over again. That's how they win. They win with images. When the moment you think about Jesus, you see one of the BGs. The moment you think about the Prophet Muhammad, you see an Arab guy. They push these images. They're already ethnically branded for them.
Preach, Wani. Wani is cooking. I went to CVS the other. Well, it was this summer. My life is kind of like blurring together lately, but um, I was walking out of CVS. Now this is in Memphis, Tennessee, in a very very black neighborhood. I'm looking for the picture as I speak in my phone, but very very black neighborhood. Went to go get some hot Cheetos and was walking out of it, and there was a picture of Jesus the Christ just strategically put at the door, like almost looking back at you, and it said chosen, chosen, and there's a lot there. There's an implication there, chosen. Chosen who? By God? Or the chosen rather, you know. And he Jesus kind of had a smile on his face, you know, looking kind of regal, and it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, that's not the biblical description of Jesus the Christ. That's kind of like opposite the biblical description of Jesus the Christ. And furthermore, why would they put that in a foundational Black American neighborhood, low SES, very poor neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee, right down the street from the Kellogg plant, where a lot of Black people work with dignity and barely make enough money to pay their bills making cereal? And it dawned on me it was a weapon. The implication of that picture that I put on Jumbotron is if you don't look like him, you're not chosen. These people are real clever with their warfare. There's a supposition there. Dr. Welsing identified that. She said the brain computer works, does logic. And she says the brain computer, without you saying a fucking word, says if God is white and I am not white, then I am not God. I'm less than God. It's an attack. Look at that shit in the Jumbotron, man. The chosen? What are you trying to say? We're not chosen?
And again, these religions are always talking about how you're not supposed to show images, you're not supposed to idolize anything, and yet they turn around and idolize something. Remember, we were discussing the Kaaba and how they have that meteorite.
Yeah.
You're still worshiping the meteorite. It- You're saying that that's special and it's going to go in the Kaaba right along with your beliefs. It's impossible because uh, you're not supposed to worship anything but one thing, supposedly. But what do people do? They start talking about angels they like. Oh, Gabriel, this, and this angel, that. We're right back to not worshiping that one thing. They can't do it. They have to get these other characters involved. They cannot be, they cannot worship one God. Human beings are always going to try to split off, like that pantheon of gods that you see among all these other older groups, these pagan, supposedly pagan groups. They always have this pantheon of gods. And then all of a sudden we said, oh no, we're going to do this one thing. We're going to have one God. But you don't. You still have the Elohim, who's a group of
Yeah,
people.
it's plural, and this is the thing. These biblical quote unquote scholars will argue that and don't even know what they're talking about. In the canon of Bible, and first and foremost, I'm not a biblical scholar. I know a little bit, but I don't profess to be a biblical scholar. But I got common sense. It said, "Let us make man in our image." Us? What you mean by that? Well, it meant exactly what it said. Us, the Elohim. Well, who is that? I've heard pastors say, "Who is this Elohim?" I'm like, man, can you read? You got Michael. It's not prefix, it's suffix. Mikai, what? El. You got Gabriel. Suffix, Gabriel. They're the Elohim. It's a group of people. I mean, a group of beings, which mentioned in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the Hammurabi mentioned them. They call them the Anunnaki. I think we're talking about the same story. We're just interpreting it in a different way.
Hmm. And the worship of things just continues, the worship of people, human worshiping. That's
Yeah.
why, with all of these scandals, I don't care. Even Denzel's scandal, where he, like, wait a minute, why are you telling us you kissed a man? Who asked you? You said that the scene was cut out. Why are you announcing tongue kissing men right now? Does everyone need to be in a scandal? Well, guess what? I don't give a damn because I never cared to begin with. That's the beauty of not worshiping human beings. I don't care. He can be gay. Oprah can go under the bus. All of these people can go to hell because they're on something. How are you going to go for your whole damn career through my whole goddamn life and then pop up out of the blue talking about tongue kissing men? How are you going to do that?
Yeah, something's off. It seems forced to me. Something happened.
Yeah, we kind of covered that yesterday. Dr. Welsing said, basically, if I could paraphrase her, um, in the system of supremacy that we're dealing with, to advance as a black male, you being the main threat, you gotta go out your way to let the powers that be know that, hey y'all, I'm not a threat. I'm cool, which can be expressed from yesterday's space in the manifest in the way of dressing a certain way, even though you are a rock solid fucking NFL ball player who could run through a brick wall. Why are you dressing like this? Because you want to keep that job. You want that money. You want that swag. Because it can easily be taken away from you. If we didn't learn anything else from this last election cycle, we learned that this power structure has a really tightly firm grip on our entertainers and athletes. How? I don't know. But I know that it does.
It certainly does. We saw some of the biggest names be drug up there to talk about Kamala. They were put on a leash. You could see the leash. You could see the fear. You could see the not wanting to be there in their eyes. These people are enslaved.
I'm talking myself through a mute, which is so strange, Wani, because they have all this money. So it must be a hidden hand that we're not aware of. There's something
Mm-hmm.
else to this. Very
It's
fascinating.
it's it's the hand that comes out of the blue and says, "Hey, Michael Jackson is bankrupt." Really? Hey, Prince is bankrupt.
Yeah, how did they all of a sudden get bankrupt when they had money?
Right. How are you have no money? Okay?
And
You don't go from billions to oh, that's that hidden hand. That they're on a leash. They're renting their lives. They don't own their lives. They're renting their lives.
yeah, and the strength. Well, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were gonna say something, Nikki. I was just gonna say the strange thing about it is, money. These billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars don't necessarily exist in the bank. I was told that they exist in the form of ether, just in a computer. It's a bunch of numbers in a computer. No bank carries $100 million. Nobody does that. It's just not enough space for all that. So if what I heard was true, and these athletes and entertainers have their $20 million just in electronic format, how hard would that to be to say, whoops, I'm sorry, I accidentally deleted your fortune, Mr. Athlete? You know, maybe that's the hidden hand, the threat of taking it back, revoking the imaginary money.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you hear that a man who has a contract to play football has to wear a pink midriff top, and or what was those silky pants that look like your grandmother's pants, and a red cardigan that looks like your grandmother's red cardigan from 1950, not even a current grandmother cardigan. I mean, all of these outfits that these guys are wearing, are they trying to tell us that they're gay? Are they coming out? Like, what would make them dress like that? Or are they trying to make a statement that, hey, I don't have to be masculine to be a man? I don't know. Some of these women are pretty aggressive with their feminism. They had men wearing flowers in their hair. I saw a photo shoot with some, how women wear flowers and sunflowers in their hair. They had men doing that. And I said, who would do that? Oh, flowers are masculine too. Yeah, okay. But
So what they wear?
they
They wearing flowers and they fade.
they had it behind their ear.
Whoa.
They had yeah, they were trying to make all these men look weird. And of course, we know Will Smith is in the mix, and his son was walking around in a dress. His children were gender bending, and then playing a bunch of games, saying they were gay, and then oh, we just like to cause a ruckus, and we just like to, shuffle up the. You're not shuffling me up. You're shuffling up your damn self. I don't care what you do. They actually think that I give a damn. Oh, we like to say stuff to stir up the public. I'm not stirred up. They're part of an agenda. They just come out there wearing dresses, and the girl wears masculine clothes, and they're supposed to influence people to be confused about their sexuality, so they go down in flames, and humanity goes down in flames.
Oh yeah. Never forget what our brother Neely Fuller said about this. He said that sex is real powerful, and basically I'm paraphrasing Neely, but you can use it to kind of like program agendas. So this is very fascinating and terrifying when you psychoanalyze it. But it would appear that we're looking at some type of gigantic agenda. What the agenda is, I have my speculations. I don't know fully what the agenda is, but I think a large portion of the agenda is has revealed itself um, through certain billionaires I'm not going to name on here who keep buying up farmland in Mississippi. And I don't know if it's Joe Rogan or somebody said that Bill Gates, I named him, was trying to block out the sun. So how out of touch do you get that you just say wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm gonna block out the sun. So since I said it, I'm gonna say it. Bill Gates allegedly has been buying up farmland all across foundational Black American areas. Um, and Bill Gates allegedly said, I'm paraphrasing him, that I heard him say this. I'm just gonna say he said something like the global population of the Earth needs to be um, lessened. There needs to be less people, which is an insult. That's not true. Anybody who's traveled the world or hell driven through Mississippi, driven through Georgia, know that the United States is there's more land in the United States that's not being used by human beings than land that is being used. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say planet Earth is intelligent. Planet Earth didn't create um, has enough land and water to go around. The reason why people are starving in this country, which has been proven over and over again, is because of groups that want to dominate trade. You know what I'm saying? If you cut off food, if you destroy somebody's crops, you got them. If they're hungry, they're going to do whatever the hell you say. Well, but what I was trying to say before I kind of went off into a nebulous tangent is if you look at what Bill Gates said about the global population being lowered, and you take that into consideration, why then would you be concerned with food sources? Is that related to lowering population? I'm not making a statement. I'm asking a question. You know, what is this really about? That's my question. I dealt with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's educational rhetoric for years through a program called Teach for America. Some of you've heard of it, some of you haven't. But from my view, Teach for America was so dangerous to foundational Black American kids in Memphis and in Birmingham. Whether it was intentionally dangerous or not, I'm not going to deal with that. But what I'm going to deal with is Teach for America put um, new college graduates in the classroom of foundational Black American low SES poor children, and these teachers usually were not of the lineage. And secondly, they had degrees from places like Harvard and Yale and Duke and Penn. So you put a young man who's outside of foundational Black American lineage in a classroom, and you put a couple Yale T-shirts on them, and you're going to inspire a bunch of young men to go to Yale when places like Yale, in all honesty, with all due respect, wasn't created for us. That's not for us. That's for another group of elites. I can say this from experience. I briefly studied at Harvard University. Harvard was beautiful and delicious. The food was amazing. I put a picture of the dining hall in a jumbotron in a moment, but it wasn't necessarily designed for me in the sense of being a student. After dating about seven girls that semester, I had a good time at Harvard. I noticed in all the dorm rooms there was a smaller dorm room. See, Harvard has a gigantic suite with oak. It's beautiful, fireplaces, right? And they have one shower. You share a shower and a toilet with your roommate, and it has two rooms that you can lock for your privacy. You got a bed and you got a little counter to study and a little lamp. It's adorable. Well, I noticed in my dorm room and in some of the young ladies I was seeing, their dorm rooms, there was a third little room that was very tiny. Um, and before I resigned from the school, or withdrew, I guess is a better term, um, I just got bold and asked a young lady I was seeing who was very wealthy. Parents were rich. She was from Concord, New Hampshire. She was one of them. And I said, why in the hell is there a third room in everybody's suite? I'm talking about all the dorms. And she said, "Oh, you don't know." I was like, "No." She was like, "Well, when Harvard was created in 1638, or 1636, I forget, fact check that. But when Harvard was created, the the students of Harvard were allowed to bring their slaves, so the slave needed a quarters. So it was a damn slave quarters at Harvard. You know, that's what you're dealing with. That's what these schools are created to do, is to support, in my view, support elites. And foundational black Americans were never considered or never intended to be elites in the United States of America. But I digress. Captain America, what's on your mind? Captain, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now, bro.
Yeah, man. That's interesting, man. I never knew that.
They
That's
don't
the first time.
advertise it. I've never read it. I've never read it, never seen it in a magazine. I lived it.
Yeah, I would never thought of no shit like that, man.
It's wild, man. Beautiful school, though.
It's cool, but they motives ain't good, boy. Shit, what I do want to know is, man, who the fuck, old boy is in the jumbotron wearing the goddamn crop top looking ass shit? Who the fuck that is?
Wait, that picture's back up there? Up, yep, there it is. Crop top.
Boy, hey, old boy, look, who the fuck, boy?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works because who would do that? Like, what normal man would do that? And who wouldn't defend, like we were discussing yesterday? I had no problem as a teenager saying, no, I don't want these lesbians watching me take a shower. I'm not taking a shower over here. Just give me a zero. And I can't see how they can't say that. I don't see how they can't say, no, I don't want the owner to walk into the shower with some random women staring me up and down like I'm some kind of farm animal. I don't understand why they don't speak up. Maybe they are some kind of farm animals. I mean, they're not defending themselves. They're doing gay things. They're dressing like women, and they're being treated like plantation property by those owners.
We're missing something. There's some key to this that we're missing. Um, there's something that's not being said. I had a years ago when I moved to Memphis. I um I taught early childhood. It was the only job I could find. Taught kindergarten one year, and it was gift and a curse. But anyway, the majority of my parents were Chinese. They were scientists, research scientists at St. Jude Hospital. These folk was deep. One of my parents created, she created cancer medicine that was designed specifically for you based on your genome. She would draw some blood and map your genome sequence. How do you even begin to do that? I don't know. But she would map your genome sequence and create cancer medication that's tailored exclusively for you. Man, that lady was bad. Well, one of my parents, my Chinese parents, was uh, telling me, I mean, this lady used to blow my mind with theories and concepts. And she said, money is not real. And I said, what do you mean? Hell yeah, money's real. I took out a $20 bill out of my wallet. She said, no, 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 it's not real. It's a fictitious concept. And I thought about it. That swirled around my head for years after I resigned from that job. It still swirled around. And I was back in grad school reading an article on Nixon. In the 70s, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So the dollar wasn't not, whereas a dollar used to be representative of a certain amount of gold, it wasn't anymore. So my parent was right. Money is not real. What's it based off of, you know? So why am I bringing that up? That seems unrelated, but it's related because if the dollar's not based on the gold standard, and these celebrities have a lot of money, um, maybe their money doesn't have as much worth as we think it does. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. And if you
Yeah.
look back,
I
go ahead.
mean, we don't know if they have any money. We can't see their bank accounts.
That's a fact.
They could just be saying, here's your car, here's your house, here's this and that, because they don't do anything with their money. They just, buy themselves things. I don't see them doing things that much for the neighborhood that you think they would be doing. Someone like an Oprah Winfrey who's had money for such a long time, you would think that she would have built a Mount Rushmore with us on it. Do something for Black Americans to be recognized, some big monument in stone, something. But she has, I mean, something just as simple as opening a a mobile nail salon or a mobile beauty supply so that Black women could call someone, their own person, over to their house to do their nails or to sell beauty products. She could have developed all kinds of things just for Black Americans, and that could be a money making venture for her. But she's never done anything. All she's done is creep over to South Africa, open up a school, have everybody molested, and then come creeping back.
Wow. Well, that sends my mind in a whole nother direction, Wani. The concept of we don't know if they have any money. All we know is what we're told. We're told they're billionaires, but we don't know that. Well, what the direction that sent my mind, I start thinking about in my mind, I start cross referencing foundational Black American entertainers who made excellent business decisions and got assets that were better than money, real assets. And one name popped in my head, Michael Jackson. Do y'all remember? Um, I was a very young child, but I remember what's the guy's name? The Beatles, is it Paul McCartney? Um, Michael Jackson, who was very brilliant, by the way. Michael played the game. He was a very brilliant, shrewd businessman. Apparently, Michael Jackson overheard McCartney and the Beatles talking about their masters um, are about to be for sale, and they didn't have enough money to buy them. And how they wish the Beatles, how they wish they had enough money to buy their own masters. It would make them rich. So um, Michael Jackson overheard that at dinner, I think, and played like, "Hey, I'm just a black dude. I don't know what's going on. Let me smile and dance." You know what I'm saying? But the moment Michael got a chance, in his brilliance, he bought those the Beatle masters. And if somebody knows the story better than me, jump in and correct me. But um, he bought the Beatles masters, and Paul McCartney found out about that. And I seen the interview. He went fucking ballistic. Like, how dare you make a smart business move? He made fun of his voice and everything.
McCartney, what happened is that Michael Jackson bought them not just his masters, but the masters of almost every other person that were in that corporation. And then Paul McCartney got upset about that. That Michael Jackson, who he thought was his friend, at that time they did Ebony and Ivory, and he thought that he was his friend and thought that he had backstabbed him. But that was the smartest move that anybody could make, because most artists, they are not masters of themselves. They don't own their music. And so then what happens is that when your song is played over and over again over years, yeah, there's money. That's where money comes in. And Michael Jackson, he realized that, and he bought just not just that those masters, but also the masters of every other artist that was involved.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Santa Marte. It's good to see you. And it's arguably, if you trace the timeline, um, it looked like Michael Jackson started having all those problems after he bought those. That's when the
Why
press
did
talk.
he get mad?
I can remember. I can remember this interview as a child. He was like, he was mad because he said that Michael didn't tell him he was going to buy him, but he didn't have to tell him shit.
So this reminds me of when Michael B. Jordan wanted to trademark the rum label Ju was it Juve, and the Trinidadians lost their damn minds. Somehow they think they own a French word.
Wow.
Some they think they own something, and they don't own anything. They don't own the holiday. It's a Catholic Lent festival. They don't own the word Juve. And they threw a hissy fit and got tens of thousands of signatures on a petition to say that we were attacking their precious culture, which they don't even have one. Anyway, um, I said that to say that when a white man went ahead and trademarked the name, they didn't care. They just wanted to make sure no black American did it. But it's okay for a white man to trademark Juve and do whatever the hell he wants to do with it.
Yeah, that was a just that I even picked up as a child. It's like I was wondering why Paul McCartney was mad, but he was mad because a black man made us fruit. He was really mad, in my opinion, that a black man entertainer outsmarted him when his ass shouldn't have been
But
out.
he said he didn't have the money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no really, if you want to be um impartial, there was really no reason for Paul McCartney to get mad. Actually, the logical thing to do in that situation is not to go on TV and whine about how Michael Jackson did you wrong because you um allowed him in your circle. The smart thing to do would be to find Michael Jackson and say, "Hey man, can I buy those back from you?" you know, like, "Hey,
Right.
bud."
But
I don't
later on in
understand it.
his will, later on in Michael Jackson's his thing is called an estate. It's like a little bit like how the trust fund functions. Then Michael Jackson returned that to him because the Beatles they had to. It's like look at BB King. He was working all his whole life, had diabetes, sitting on stage, but he still had to sing. And so what happened is that Michael Jackson's estate later on, not to everybody else, yeah, but his estate gave back that to the Beatles so that they don't have to be slaves anymore. And so he did correct that. So it turned out to work for the best in the end. But everybody else, the estate of Michael Jackson, with Sony Music together, they still have these rights. So I mean he was extremely wealthy and he made good business plans.
Right, right. He was very shrewd, and I think he got that from somebody helped me out. Was it his mom or his dad? One of Michael's parents was really brilliant, like a business person. Um, yeah, they're a very brilliant family. I've gone to see Janet several times with my wife, and um, it's some genius coming off, and it's a little genius coming off there, But that doesn't fit the narrative. We're going back into pseudoscience. Pseudoscience is black entertainers are not intelligent, right? Isn't that what it declares? Well, Michael Jackson, which is probably the world's greatest entertainer of all time, was not a dumb pseudoscientist. He was a very brilliant businessman. You know that just wasn't supposed to happen. I don't think.
I think Prince was more, my thing, Prince. Because Prince, he has what's called the Vault. And in the Vault, there's so much hits and music in there that for the next 300 years, Prince can be still number one on the charts.
Yeah, he was brilliant too. And oh, dang, that's a good point, Santa Morte. Isn't that like a similar? There's a parallel there because when Prince, I don't want to get the story wrong, but it was something about um, his fortune was tied up in his death somehow. I forgot the story, but
Again, they
With
said
his
he was going to be
sister.
bankrupt. Remember? They said, oh, he's going to be bankrupt. Like, really? How?
yeah, how is he gonna be paid? Was Prince a billionaire? Oh man, it's.
The issue with Prince, it had to do with basically family members who are basically they had hardly any contact with him, but also are going to be a part of what the estate, because another time that they call it estate. When you're extremely wealthy, that's a generation wealth that goes until like 200 or 300 years, like Rothschild estate, yeah, or the Rockefeller estate, and all of these type of things. That's real wealth,
Well,
and
well,
his family was fighting over that.
but here's the thing, and we'll move on after this, but it's some bullshit going on with that because you think Prince didn't have a will? He had an attorney. He had some type of paperwork, some type of will or trust, but it mysteriously disappears after he gets killed. Come on now, somebody doesn't want the estate to execute to his family, which it should do. What people don't
It
real
depends on what state that you're living in. Like if you live in the state of California, or the state of New York, or state of Florida, they also have certain type of laws.
Of
And
course,
yeah.
but the estate, from what I learned when I was in law school, is if there is no paperwork, no will or trust, which I need to get me a trust. I need to go ahead.
He's too rich to not have those
That's what I'm saying.
things.
He had an attorney. You think his attorney?
There's no
No
way.
way. No way that he didn't have something. No way.
The lawyer probably took it and flushed it down the toilet so it would go into probate and
That's
get fought over.
that's exactly what Wani beat me to it. I was gonna say it goes to probate, and I've heard some of the worst crooked stories about probate court. Man. Anyway, pseudoscience. What we got? Um, the concept Margaret Sanger, and the concept of genetics, eugenics. Is there such thing as a master race? Does that exist?
Yep, and it's not her.
Yeah.
I don't know why white people want to talk about master races. It is ridiculous. The worst specimen on the damn planet, the most mutated ass person with all of the major mutations, straight hair, light skin, light eyes, well, only 5% of them, but every mutation known, unable to even have a child with someone else and maintain a whiteness in that child. The most weakest specimen is always talking about being a master race. It's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. I think we know what that's about. I think we know exactly what that's about. That's fear of what did Dr. Weldon say? Fear of genetic annihilation.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. They can't produce a white child. Even if they hook up with a Asian person, the child comes out looking Asian.
Oh yeah, I got a friend and well, a colleague from high school who married he's Asian. He married a girl of German ancestry, and he got a beautiful family, beautiful children, just beautiful, but they all look Asian. It's like, how'd that happen? I think that gene is dominant as well.
Every gene is dominant when compared to their genes.
Yeah, brother Mikhail was saying some interesting stuff yesterday. I wish I could have picked his brain a little bit more about that. Do you know about ghost DNA? You know anything about that?
Hmm.
Educate me. What does that mean?
Well, they can't tell. There's different things they can't tell where it comes from. Like one of the interesting DNAs on the planet is in the Basque region, um, in Spain. There, a lot of the people over there are Rh negative, and they said, how did they evolve? You can't get a Rh positive individuals can't create Rh negative. So where do they come from? Plus, they have a language isolate, which is something fun to study. They have a language that's not related to The language is nearby. So where did they come from?
Good question. I don't have a theory.
That messes up the out of Africa theory.
There you go. And that leads me to one of my final points about pseudoscience. Right on time, Wani. Theories are not fucking facts. Why are we learning about these theories? And a lot of these theories are masquerading as facts when they couldn't be further from a fact. The theory of relativity was created by Albert Einstein, and as historical canon has it, he was just trying to explain, different functionalities of a theory from his point of view. It's not a fact. However, teachers teach it like it's a fact, like it's like one plus two equals three. No, it don't work that way. It's a theory. A theory is a hypothesis. Is what you think. Um, but
But they trained us. That's part of the programming. You forget the part where it says theory, don't you? When you
yep,
hear theory, it goes out of your, it goes in one ear and out the other on these, and then people start arguing these points. It's like, wait a minute, Darwin even has a chapter where he says problems with the theory. He's telling you there's issues, but you're arguing like a wild man trying to fight when I'm telling you what he already said. So they're arguing, pretending that it's not a theory. All of these things are theories.
yeah, totally. And a theory is not a fact. Not at all. It's all
It's just
warfare.
like Jesus is also a theory and not a fact.
Yeah, the letter J didn't exist in 1600 until 1600. I'm sorry. So, I don't doubt that there was a prophet. I don't know what his name was. Some people say Yeshua, but
But even that is also just a theory, because the Romers, yeah, they wrote everything down, and that's a habit the Europeans have for a very long time, and there's no documentation of such a situation or such a person ever existed.
yeah, yeah. Me and Wani got on this space about 6 months ago, and kind of got me in a little trouble because I didn't mean to come up in there with some scholarship, but I came up in there with J.A. Rogers, man, and Albert Boyd Kuhn. I had people calling me a demon. Somebody crashed out. What was that dude name? He
No, we can't have them crashing out now because it would be too many crash outs at the same time. So no, 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 no. We're still dealing with the Democrat crash out. They're still crying and whining. Well, look what Trump did. I didn't vote for Trump. I did not vote, guys. So stop telling me what Trump said like he's your daddy. Don't tell me what Trump said. I don't care. I'm just waiting for the first round of deportation. There's nothing you can say to me. There's nothing you can do. Even if I get deported to Mexico, I'm coming right back. I don't want to hear anything. There's no conversation.
yeah, case closed.
Case closed. I'm never voting for Democrats for the rest of my life because they have already done enough for me to know that they have a problem.
Oh yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, did the left declare war on facts? I'm gonna say, based off of Chris Hedges, the death of the liberal class, using that as scholarship, I'm gonna say yeah. In a lot of ways, yes. The left is, and not just the left, but academia in America has declared war on very simple facts. Um, I mean, it's too many to list, actually. And lastly, does America love pseudosciences? Well, America doesn't love pseudosciences. America is very full of very smart, intelligent, innovative people. We've always been that country. Um, However, pseudosciences have been allowed to come over here and spew nonsense. So yeah, in a sense.
Yeah, I think like we were saying yesterday, when we didn't know our backgrounds before DNA, we had to go by rumors, and your grandmother said this and that. Most grandmothers didn't know anything about Africa. I've never heard anyone's grandmother say, "Yeah, my great grandmother came over across the Middle Passage and do blah blah." Why not? How come we never heard that story?
Right.
I've never heard that from anyone. And people do know what their grandparents or their great grandparents did if it was something really powerful, like coming over on a slave ship. You would think they would tell their children about it, and yet we don't have that story. We just don't have that story. So, um, I don't know. It's something to ponder.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I enjoyed y'all. This was a little pop up space, a continuation of Pseudoscience Part 2. Any closing remarks?
Let's do a pseudoscience part
I'm
three.
on. Let's,
Yeah.
and we'll start that a little earlier.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, because I got kind of caught up here, but I really want to get some stuff together and get started a little bit early tomorrow, and I can't wait. I just love all of y'all to pieces. Thank you so much, Professor Wani.
Oh, yeah. Love y'all too.
Love you
Man,
too.
I ain't even want this shit to end, man. I was enjoying all this.
We'll be back.
Oh,
We'll be back tomorrow. Without further ado, I'll see you later. It's good seeing you, Santa Morte. And peace out.
good night.
Peace
All right.